Today's video is an introduction to Arduino boards and how I use them to create controllers for video games. This video will cover the different types of boards and their physical features, while future videos will go into greater detail on how to actually code a functional controller. My goal with these videos is to show you how anyone can learn to do this. All of the parts in today's video will be linked down in the description below. And just a quick plug before we get started, anyone interested in learning to code should check out our Discord server. There you can chat with myself as well as other community members to ask for help and share projects. An invitation link will be down in the description. Arduino is the brand of microcontroller that I use to program components such as buttons and joysticks to play video games. There's a wide variety of boards available, as you can see in front of me. Let's go through a few of the examples now. The Arduino Uno is by far the most common of these boards. If you already have an Arduino, this is likely the version you have. While it is a great board for beginners, there are better options available when it comes to developing video game controllers. You are much better off purchasing one of these microcontrollers that are based off the Atmega 32U4 chip. The benefit of this chip is that it has native USB mouse and keyboard support. This means that you can plug your project into any computer and it will immediately recognize it as a USB keyboard. No additional software required. The Arduino Leonardo is the first board on our list. The design is nearly identical to the Uno with these convenient headers that allow for solderless wire connections. This is the board that I would recommend to any beginner. The Leonardo will run you approximately $20 to $25 on Amazon, but there are knockoffs available as well. They function exactly the same for less than half the cost. This would be the perfect alternative for those that are just getting started but don't want to invest too much up front. Next up, we have the Arduino Micro. It is a smaller version of the Leonardo and is great for integrating into smaller projects. The Micro will run you approximately $20 on Amazon. It has these pin headers that are great for adding it directly to a breadboard. Here is an example of a knockoff version that I use in most of my projects. As much as I love the Arduino brand and want to support the future development, their boards come at a high markup. I would simply go bankrupt if I used official hardware for every project. Instead, I purchased these knockoffs in bulk, which results in a cost of less than $5 per board. These knockoffs are the boards that I would recommend to anyone who is already comfortable with Arduino programming and wants to produce multiple controllers at a reduced cost. Finally, we come to the Teensy board, and while I have not personally used this board, I know that it is a very popular alternative and this list would be incomplete without it. I'll create a separate tutorial for the Teensy once I learn how to use it. Now that I've introduced all the boards, let's talk about some of the physical features of the microcontroller. The board connects via micro USB. This provides both power to the board as well as transmits keyboard commands back to the computer. You also connect the board to the computer via this USB port anytime you are programming your controller via the Arduino IDE software. All components are connected to the microcontroller with these pin headers. The 3.3 volt, 5 volt, and VN can all be used to supply current to your circuit. There are also 3 ground pins available. Pins 2 through 3 are our digital pins. They measure on-off states, 1s and 0s, and can be used for detecting button presses. Pins A0 through A5, however, are our analog pins. They can be used for reading the analog values between the on and off states. A prime example is a joystick, which needs to measure all inputs between the neutral position and fully pushed. The final pins I'll mention are the SCL and SDA pins. These are used to communicate with I2C devices, which is a topic that is way outside the scope of this introductory video. I'll link to a video that explains I2C in detail for those that are interested. In short, these pins are used to interface with more complex components such as the accelerometer that I used in the TF2 minigun project for aiming. I also use these pins for the Wii Nunchuk in the SPAM controller. You'll notice that the Arduino Micro board is missing the SDA and SCL pins, and that is because you need to use pins 2 and 3 for this function. And that concludes this introductory video on what boards I use for my controllers. The upcoming videos will cover more on how I wire individual components as well as code them to play video games. Some examples of components will include buttons, joysticks, accelerometers, and the Wii Nunchuk. All of these parts will be linked down in the description below so you can pick up your own and follow along with these tutorials. As always, leave me a comment if there's any controller ideas you'd like to see, and I'd even take suggestions on coding tutorials as well. Thanks for watching.